I might have recorded that. No, it's sleep.
Good evening and welcome to my first meeting as chair of the Sittingbourne Area Committee. And before I start the meeting, could any members or officers in physical attendance with an electronic device mute it to avoid feedback? Could remote participants keep their camera and microphone off unless they wish to speak, as this can affect the quality of the meeting? This meeting is being live webcast and the recording stays on the council's website. So I would like to welcome everyone to this evening's hybrid Sittingbourne Area Committee meeting, including anyone attending remotely. The following Swale Borough Council officers are in attendance: Director of Resources, Lisa Hillary; Policy and Engagement Officer, Janet Dart. I would also like to welcome Joseph Ratcliffe, who is online from Kent County Council, who will be giving a presentation on the Kent Local Transport Plan 5. Councillor Richard Lehman, the chair of the Waste and Street Cleansing Scrutiny Review Panel, who has just entered through the door. KCC Councillor Mike Dendor, divisional member for Sittingbourne North. Is he online? No, he's not. No, he's not here though.
And neither is John.
And neither is John, right. So we begin by introducing our local councillors. Who would like to start?
I'll start with one. Councillor Winters, probably, Angie's my colleague, Milk Breeze, like Councillor Winters, on Milk Breeze support.
Councillor Ashley Wise, Kingsley Ward.
Councillor Harold Watson, Rowan.
Councillor Simpson, Rawdon Ward.
Councillor Mark Last, Merson Ward.
Thank you. Are there any representatives of local organisations in attendance who would like to introduce themselves?
Yes, I'm Michael Garrity. I'm meant to be here with two people from Love World Church, the charity food bank side that haven't turned up. So I guess this is my learning because I came here to find out.
Lou?
Ted Rolls, Swale Media Arts Centre.
Kevin Kelly, sitting on Centre.
Thank you. If you would like to speak on an item, please raise your hand if you wish to speak, and I will invite you to introduce. Sorry.
Just on the Milton Reed Society.
Thank you. If you would like to speak on an item, please raise your hand if you wish to speak, and I will invite you to speak. Likewise, could anyone attending remotely please mute their microphone until they speak, and I will indicate for you to speak. So please be aware of the evacuation procedures to follow in the event of an emergency. There is no scheduled test of the fire alarm during this meeting. If the alarm does sound, please leave the building quickly without collecting any of your possessions, using the doors signed as fire escapes, and assemble outside where directed. Await further instructions before re-entering the building. Should anyone require assistance in evacuating the building, please make Swale Borough Council aware of any special needs, so that suitable arrangements may be made in the event of an emergency. Does anyone have any special needs that needs to be aware of? Okay. So, are there any apologies for absence, Janet.
Yes, we've got apologies from Councillor Derek Carnell, Councillor Shelley Cheeseman and Councillor Simon Clark, but he is attending online. So,
Also bring apologies from Councillor Charlie Miller.
thank you.
Are there any declarations of interest? No, okay. Do members agree the minutes of the meeting held on the 22nd of February 2024? Minutes numbers 684 to 695 and 15th of May 2024 as correct records. So I would firstly like to introduce Joseph Ratcliffe, who is online from Kent County Council, who will be giving a presentation on the Kent Local Transport Plan 5. Good evening, Joseph.
Good evening, Chair. Thank you very much. My name is Joseph Ratcliffe. I'm the Transport Strategy Manager at Kent County Council. I'm just going to share my screen if that works, hopefully. I've got a few slides just to talk through the report with a few maps. Screen. Can you all see that? Excellent. Okay, this will only take about 10 minutes and we've got plenty of time for questions. So, local transport plan. This is the 4th Whale area meeting I think we've attended, and I think we're at the Joint Transportation Board in a couple of weeks' time as well. So I'll just briefly take you through what a local transport plan is, what we're consulting on, and when it will be completed. So for those that don't know, the Local Transport Plan, or LTP for short, is a statutory document under the 2000 Transport Act, later amended by the Local Transport Act of 2008, which basically says each authority must develop policies for the promotion and encouragement of safe, integrated, efficient and economic transport to, from and carry out their functions so as to implement those policies. In other words, what the county as a local highway and transport authority needs, where, when and why it needs it. So this is our 5th local transport plan since the 2000 Act. The current transport plan, until it's replaced by this one, was LTP4, which was entitled Delivering Growth Without Gridlock. And this was meant to cover a period from 2016 to 2031. However, we carried out an early review of the plan a couple of years ago and concluded that it needed updating for a variety of reasons. The world has changed significantly since 2016. The UK has obviously left the European Union. We've had a global pandemic, massive inflation, and policies to meet our 2050 target for net zero in terms of carbon dioxide emissions. Plus, a lot of the schemes within LTP4 had been delivered, or were on their way to being delivered, or were never going to be delivered. So we felt like we needed a new set of priorities so that we could have a conversation with government about how we go about delivering those. At the same time, the government also expressed a desire for all local transport authorities to refresh their transport plans and have new ones, and gave some very modest revenue funding to help with that process. We were expecting guidance from the government about what these plans should include, and although we had several workshops with the Department for Transport, the guidance was never published. Of course, we have now obviously had a general election, a new government, so we're very much in the dark now as to exactly how transport plans will be progressed. But anyway, we want to have a fresh set of priorities so that we're ready to have that conversation. So about a year ago, we consulted on an emerging local transport plan, which basically just asked for people's views on an overall ambition, which is what's up on the screen now. I'm not going to read that out word for word, but basically all the usual stuff about safe, reliable transport systems, that enables people to get around in a way that hopefully will combat climate change with electric vehicle infrastructure, making walking and cycling more attractive, improving public transport, and all balanced against the need for a resilient transport network. To deliver that ambition, we consulted on and then slightly amended 10 policy outcomes. Again, I won't read these out to you, but they are, all the usual stuff about road safety, improving access to key services, recognising the importance of international travel through Kent, both in terms of rail and HGVs with haulage, etc. So that was last year. The current consultation is the interesting bit, the actual proposals. What are the schemes that we want to try and deliver? And try is the key word there. Everything within this local transport plan is not funded. Some schemes are progressing and applying for funding. Others are merely problems that need to be addressed. So we need to develop schemes. And at the moment, like I said, we have no real idea from government as to what types of funding will be available for this. So it's very much sort of an aspirational plan, really. So it's organised into different levels: strategic, county-wide, and then local. So I'll just briefly take you through all of these. So the map on your screen at the moment shows the strategic road network proposals. Obviously, the strategic road network, motorways and trunk roads, are not run by Kent County Council. They are National Highways responsibility, which is a government-owned company. The work for the DFT. So national networks are very much part of national infrastructure. Nevertheless, we have a lot of priorities for improvements to those in Kent, and anything that's in our statutory local transport plan does carry weight when it comes to National Highways setting their investment priorities and what the DFT allocate to National Highways for that delivery in what's called their Road Investment Strategy, or RIS, of which we are coming to the end of the second RIS next year, and we expect a consultation from government on a third road investment strategy to take us for the 5-year period up to 2030. So just a few things to bring to your attention in this part of the world. Obviously, the A249 is trunked, is part of National Highways network north of the M2 up to the Port of Sheerness. But the section that connects the two motorways, the M2 and the M20 via Detling Hill, is KCC's road. So there are proposals that National Highways will look at, and we would support that to what's called trunk that road, so it becomes part of the strategic road network, plus the improvements that are needed as part of that. Obviously, we've just had M2 Junction 5, the flyover at Stotbury, delivered. There would need to be equivalent improvements down at the Maidstone end. We've also got the need to improve capacity along the M2, the section from Junction 4, I think it is, from Gillingham through to Brenley Corner at Junction 7, which is still a 2-lane original 1960s build of the motorway, which will become extremely important if number 1 on that map, Lower Thames Crossing, is delivered. So this is a huge piece of infrastructure to put a new crossing to relieve Dartford, which we are awaiting a decision on the development consent order, because that was a nationally significant infrastructure project. And that is expected to be made next week, actually, on the 4th of October, if it's not delayed again. If that goes ahead, obviously it changes the flow of traffic through Kent. Any traffic that's crossing from the north via that new crossing, if it wants to get down to the M20, will need to do so via Bluebell Hill. So we have what's called a large local major scheme to improve Bluebell Hill. And that will be needed for traffic trying to access Eurotunnel, for example. But traffic going on to Dover will probably remain on the M2A2 corridor, which means we need that capacity upgrade on that section of the M2, an improvement at Brenley Corner, M2 Junction 7, which is number 6 on your map there. And then the completion of the link from Lyddon to Dover in terms of dualling the remaining sections of single carriageway and junction improvements at Whitfield and Duke of York roundabouts. So that all supports quite an old policy now, the bifurcation or splitting of traffic, port traffic between the two corridors, the M2A2 and the M20, which also needs to improvements. Number 9 there is better management of international freight traffic, a better alternative to Operation Brock, formerly, well, could still be put in place, Operation Stack, basically using the motorway for when there's disruption at either Eurotunnel or the Port of Dover. So that would be a priority that we want government to deliver as well. And there are some local junction improvements related to Lower Thames Crossing around Gravesend and Canterbury as well to unlock local growth. This next slide sets out all the other links that are county-wide. These are our responsibility. So we've already mentioned Bluebell Hill there, the A229. That is our road, but also could be trunked if those proposals go through, but unlikely. Looking at the whole A228 corridor as well, and other various local improvements. County-wide that applies everybody is road safety. That's the Vision Zero strategy. Road maintenance, big part of the plan is emphasise the need to maintain our existing network. At the moment, it's wholly unsatisfactory, the level of funding we get from government to maintain our network, hence the often poor state of our roads. And supporting the shift to electric vehicles, EV charging with that 2030 or 2035, and keep changing it, ban on petrol and diesel cars by government. So the need to support motorists with the shift to EV. In terms of public transport, buses are a big thing that come up in all our consultation drop-in events. Obviously, huge concern to members of the public, or the lack of buses, which, as we know, are private enterprise in this country since the deregulation of buses in 1986. It's very much down to operators such as Stagecoach, Arriva, and others to supply those services. And if they're unprofitable, they get cut. And the council only steps in for socially necessary services, extending services into the evening, weekends, etc., to get to key services. And due to budget cuts, year on year, those buses have been reduced, those supported services. Government is planning at the moment to bring more powers in terms of franchising to local authorities to dictate what those networks are and frequently, but there's not much information on funding, because if a bus service doesn't make money, somebody has to pay for it to run that service. But we have priorities for where the buses do run very well. Fast track in Kent Thames side in Dartford and Gravesham, and the new fast track in Dover that's being developed to improve those services, and all the proposals in what's called the Bus Service Improvement Plan, which was consulted on a couple of years ago. And we got some modest levels of funding from government to deliver that, which we need a replacement for, or continuation of that funding once that runs out. Also looking at rail services, again, rail is not something that the county council has direct control over, but similar to the motorway network, if we have priorities, we hope that they will be listened to and reflected in the investment decisions by Network Rail, soon to be Great British Railways, of course. One of the aspirations is to have at least a half-hourly rail service from all stations in Kent, to not only enable better journeys to and from London, but also allow local connections to be made. And when you've only got an hourly service, it isn't very conducive to making those local journeys through what is a relatively good rail network across the county, instead of the car, when you can only make that journey once an hour, and if connections don't work, that's quite poor. So that's an aspiration of the plan, as is the return of international rail services from Ashford and Ebbsfleet, which were obviously lost at the pandemic and have not been reinstated by Eurostar, despite us making that case. In terms of walking and cycling, we've combined both the local walking and cycling investment plans, the LC WIPs, into the Kent cycling and walking investment plan. And there are various routes across the county, of which the focus would be on the sections of those routes which go through towns to enable those smaller journeys. And that's also reflected in the walking zones. So Sittingbourne is a focus of a walking zone to improve connectivity within the town. The document's then organised in terms of the local priorities. So I'm just obviously going to talk to you about Swale for a few more minutes. Every district has a map like this with priorities, working with local the district council officers across all the districts in Kent, including in Swale. It doesn't list everything. It doesn't list small scale schemes that are being provided by developers, for example, as part of individual housing allocations and build outs and accesses to roads, etc., and that sort of thing. It's really just sort of the top priorities. But the whole point of this consultation is to say, look, have we got these right, or have we missed anything? What should we be considering? Have we got some of these wrong and they shouldn't be there? Network-wide proposals that are listed in the red box in the corner there, as we've just talked about, the need to improve local rail services. Specific to this area is Faversham to Medway, that North Kent line service improvements, and of course the bus service improvement plan. We've already talked about the corridor enhancement on the M2 between junction 4 and 7, and the need to improve Brenley Corner, M2 junction 7. That was a road investment strategy, a RIS scheme that National Highways was developing that was then paused. We wait to see with the review of all road schemes, or all schemes that government are doing, as to whether that continues as a pipeline project or not. Moving to our network, obviously Grovehurst junction improvements on the A249 are underway, and Key Street junction improvements are part of that and need to come as well. And then it's really a focus, really, well, there's the consideration of how we look at congestion in Sittingbourne and potential new routes, including the completion of the Northern Relief Road, which would be developer-led. I understand there's an application in to complete that, and consideration of new routes to the M2, albeit again, I understand that's developer-led and will be subject to the planning process. It's not something that KCC is promoting, but it's something obviously that is there for potentially developer-led, and would need a multi-agency approach, including National Highways, who obviously have to say on whether there's a new motorway junction or not. And then the Kent cycle, local cycle walking investment plans are very much focused on town centre improvements, improving access to the railway station, with retail park to the north of the railway line, improved journeys to school, etc., pedestrian safety, and so on. And that applies to both Sittingbourne on the Isle of Sheppey and in Faversham as well. So probably bring it to a close there, just to sum up that the plan is called Striking the Balance, and we're trying to strike that balance across all different modes, both road-based public transport, walking and cycling, and the need for, better maintenance of our network, which all of those modes depend upon. And as I said at the beginning, this graph, the proposals in the plan are broadly costed, high level, given that they're not, designed or anything, they're not schemes as such, but we've made allocations for how much they potentially could cost, and the funding shortfall that sets out to deliver the plan up to 2037, and the need for a conversation with government about how these transport improvements which are needed in Kent are delivered, because at the moment that is the big unknown. So the consultation has been running for a few months now. We started on the 17th of July. We've got a couple of weeks, well, just over a week or so left to the 8th of October. We've held a few events in Swale already. We were on in Sheerness a couple of weeks ago, and I was in Sittingbourne on Tuesday. So please check out the website, kent.gov.uk/LTP5, or email ltp5@kent.gov.uk if you want us to send documents or ask any questions. Once we've closed the consultation, we will analyse all of the feedback, take into account people's suggestions, etc., redraft the plan, and we are planning to try and get that back to County Council for adoption by the end of the. And it is a document that is a whole council responsibility, although the executive, the cabinet member, have a responsibility for making sure we have a local transport plan. It is not a cabinet member decision. It is a all council decision. Every councillor, all 81 members, get a chance to vote on it in the county council. So thank you for listening. I'll stop sharing now and happy to take any questions. Thank you very much.
Does anybody have a question for Joseph?
Yes, Councillor Weekly, so I've got one direct question. On highway improvements. Don't think you mentioned it, I may have missed it, but improving the A249 down there just outside Maidstone, with people with that roundabout to link into the M20. And I use that road quite often, and it's a very dangerous at times, peak times, to get across there. It costs serious accidents, I believe. Again, we've got figures, and even coming off the M20 to cut across to join the A249 roundabout. So that's that. You want to answer that one first, and we come back on the other one later. So. Hello.
Yeah, so, sorry, do you want me to respond, Chair?
Yes, to the first one, if you would, if you want.
Yeah, so yeah, Junction 7, the M20, the A249 at the Maidstone end is a priority in the plan. It has been. It was in the previous local transport plan. There's been various attempts to bid for funding to improve that junction, which unfortunately have been unsuccessful. But we'll continue to prioritise that and attempt to get funding from government. And of course, it's complicated as well by all the development going on near Junction 7 at the not cuts, etc., and Bearsted Road and so on. But it's definitely a priority. So absolutely, that's in the plan. Thank you.
And Madam Chair, the second point is that you mentioned about the Junction 5A improvements with the M2. As I understand it, that will probably be associated with the massive development programme, the Highest Valley development, if it gets past the planning, which is going to be a massive scheme. I also understand the continuation of all the Relief Road and the Southern Relief Road to join up with the Junction 5 if it ever comes. Is that accurate? You know, that's my other point.
I didn't quite. If you want me to respond, Chair, I didn't quite catch all of what you said. The audio kept breaking up. I think it was around the potential new junction on.
Junction 5, I understand, associated with a proposed work for the Highest Valley development, subject to getting through by the planning. I believe I'm correct on that, Anton, for the highways.
Yeah, so my understanding is the same of yours. You know, it's an application to Swell Borough Council as local planning authority for that, which requires a link road and a new motorway junction. So, I mean, KCC's position on that is all applications will respond as local highway authority. I expect National Highways have a lot to say on it as well. Circular, which doesn't like to add new motorway junctions or link roads. Unless it comes through the local plan making process. So I think that's really one, for Swell Borough Council to decide if that is in its development plan aspiration. And if it is, then we'd work with them to help deliver that. But it's not a link road that we're promoting through the plan. It's certainly not something that we could get funding for. It would need to be developer led and through the planning process. So, but at the same time, shown on that slide, there's obviously traffic congestion problems in Sittingbourne, and we need to look at all options for how that can be addressed. Obviously, walking, cycling, better public transport is one of those, but for strategic movements, we do need to look at other solutions. So it would be an option, but, obviously that would go through the local plan making process. And be developer led and I understand there's a similar application to complete the Northern Relief Road, isn't there, into the A2, which isn't without its problems either in terms of going under the railway line and so forth, and what that then would do to traffic onto the A2, potentially further east in the borough. But yeah, hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Anybody else have questions? Yes.
Hello, Mr. Ratcliffe. I'm a member of the public on this question relating to the bicycles. Is it down to government approval or the local council approval for bicycle paths?
So in terms of cycle paths, Active Travel England, which is a government agency, Chris Boardman chairs it, control a lot of the funding for cycle paths. So what we often have to do is we have to apply for funding.
Yeah.
So that is always on the strength of the business case for the particular scheme. What we have to consult with the public, do the public support it, etc., to get funding to deliver those schemes. Some schemes are delivered through when developers build houses, they have to make contributions for transport, and sometimes that's a cycle path, and then we'll deliver that on their behalf, for example. But big cycle schemes normally we have to rely on government funding for, but we would deliver. Where we'd put those schemes is the subject of what's in the local transport plan, and a more detailed plan that sits within that is called the Kent Cycling and Walking Investment Plan, or KC-WIP. And there was a consultation on that, and a report went to the Environment and Transport Committee last week following the consultation on that about where proposed routes would go. And they're all reflected in the local transport plan. But again, if they're delivered, that all depends on what funding we would get from Active Travel England. Thank you.
And one more question on that. I find that there's not enough planning into the infrastructure in the first place of bicycle paths. So it's thought of after normally. So somewhere like Sittingbourne, you have like places doing bicycle runs, people cycling a lot more. So my idea in my head is, why isn't there planning put in place? I know it's like you say, like approval and funding, but why isn't it put in place in the first place? So the funding takes away the pressure of later dates of having to put bicycle paths in.
Yes, it's a really good point, and it's one as transport planners we all struggle with as well. There's so many routes that don't connect up. It's all very piecemeal. One developer will put in a section and then it runs out, and that's what we're trying to do with the Kent Cycling and Walking Plan, is to try and link it all together and have you saw on those maps, they're much longer routes, so although you'd only perhaps cycle a portion of it, it's part of a much bigger route which is really needed, but again, the plan is one thing, actually delivering it and getting funding is another. But I completely sympathise with what you're saying and agree with you. And it needs to be looked at. Thank you.
Does anybody else have a question? Councillor Watts.
Thank you, Chair. My question's about the plan's view on rail transport, because it mentions some little bits and bobs about services per hour and stuff like that, but it's only part of the problem, because when those trains arrive and they're limited in the number of carriages, particularly the St Pancras services, where they're almost exclusively starting at Ramsgate, by the time they get to Sittingbourne, which is a growing population, because of its closeness to London, even though while some of those changes were made because of the reducing office working because of the pandemic, the number of rail passengers has been increasing over the last few years again. And so whilst, we can look at, as they did reintroduce service starting at Faversham again, and that was only last year, I think that came in, the services are still so busy because of the number of them that come through that are reduced carriages. So many of them still coming in at 6 carriages, particularly later on in the evening, that looking at the service per hour is only part of it. So whilst it's worthwhile mentioning that in this plan, is actually the operators of Network Rail making sure that those services have the proper capacity. So it doesn't really necessarily deliver on what it is that the passengers need.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. It's even worse if you're getting on closer into London. I live in Maidstone and often go up to Strood to connect, or if you drive to Ebbsfleet, trying to get on is very, very difficult. Capacity on high speed's a real issue, and it was something that we have stated before as needing to be looked at. I know our Kent Rail Action Plan. So I'm just checking through the plan now, but I completely take that point and we perhaps, do need to add that into the LTP if it's not there already, that it's not just about frequency, it's about capacity as well. Not an easy thing to overcome, given that, there are only so many trains, and, South Eastern make a decision, to start those trains in East Kent. You wouldn't want to take those away. What you need are more carriages, like you say. 6-car trains are wholly inadequate. They need to at least be 12. And then if you had a greater frequency of them, so more than one an hour, then you'd obviously have more capacity, because people have more choice, because they can take one half an hour later or whatever. Everyone's having to take that train because it's only once an hour. So the two go hand in hand, but absolutely take that point and completely agree with you. That needs to be something that's emphasised in the plan. So hopefully you're planning to respond to the consultation formally, and you can put that forward. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions for Mr. Rackle? Thank you very much.
Can I ask one thing? If I think of something like, did I contact Mr. Ratcliffe to be on the ticket or his staff or something?
There's an email address.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so we
Because
can.
sometimes your brain thinks of things, but you're not sure how to say them.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
So thank you for your time this evening, Joseph.
Thank you. Goodbye.
So we now have Councillor Richard Lehman here with us, who is the chair of the Waste and Street Cleansing Contract Scrutiny Review. Is going to talk about the review that's taking place currently.
No, I'm happy to stand. It looks more official, and everyone can see me here. Whereas, well, that's not projected. Sorry, I'm just buying time to gather my thoughts. I'm not very good at presenting from slides. I'm better at just talking, but I do need them for prompts. So if we go to the next slide, please, and then I'll just start reading what's up there. I'm blathering about that. So, Sittingbourne Borough Council, as some of you may know, are the collection authority here locally. That means that we are responsible for collecting people's bins. We're not responsible for disposing of the waste. We just take it to a place in Sittingbourne where a KCC collect it and take it on to other areas. This is something that we've always had responsibility for, and we have a contract with an external provider. Our previous provider was Biffa. That contract expired in March 2024, and Suez were awarded after a very Suez were awarded a contract which started in March of this year, and that contract is shared with our partners in Ashford and Maidstone. So it's three councils that are all in the contract together. And as I said up there, when a new contractor starts, it is anticipated that there will be some disruption. Unfortunately, none of us anticipated quite how much disruption there was going to be. That is for a combination of reasons, and we'll come on to that in a minute. And obviously, as it says up there, we've had several months of disruptions, and it's been an incredibly frustrating time for residents, councillors, and council officers. So on the 16th of July, the Environment and Climate Change Committee agreed that we should undertake a scrutiny review. And just to be clear, it is the council's policy for any contract of this size to undertake a kind of a post changeover review to see how it went. But this is a much larger piece of work that we agreed to carry out. A panel was set up with 5 councillors, 1 from each of the political groups. And we have currently met 4 times, and have 3 or 4 more meetings to go. We're looking at a range of issues to do with just the tendering process, first of all, and did we put the right specifications out for the contract that we wanted? And then just everything to do with how things have gone in the changeover around data, around reporting missed bins online, reporting missed bins to the call centres, and our communications out to the public as well. Next slide. And yeah, further to that, I've kind of covered off this already. We are doing that, having those meetings, covering those things. And we're also consulting with area committees, which I believe this is the last of those. And there is a public survey, which I don't know if anyone's responded to that yet. It's running until the 2nd of October. A few days left to respond to that if you want to. And paper copies are there on the desk for anyone who would prefer a paper copy. And really, is that the, and there's another one. This is the one that I was expecting, yeah. We're just here tonight. If anyone's got any views which they would like to share this evening now, as councillors or as members of the public or interested parties, then I would very much welcome that, and we can feed that into our review to ensure that that's as thorough as possible.
Anyone have any questions?
So, yeah,
Someone, please.
a quick follow-up question. Right, the new rounds, or the revised round, just started,
Yeah,
is it last week or?
yeah, last week.
So obviously it's early days to
Yeah.
tell whether it's successful or not. So I did only ask you this question, but the early signs last week, I mean, we did have a minor issue in Mill, when bins weren't empty, which I changed up, it's not salty, but in the bigger picture of things, was there a sign last week is working?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly, I'll talk about my experience in Bolton and Courtney and the villages over that way. For the last 5.5, just to be clear, I've got a bin complaints email folder and it's got nearly 2,000 emails in it. For most of the last few months, lots and lots of bins have been missed. I've got lots of emails, and then what's been frustrating for a lot of residents is that they don't get a catch-up collection. They report online, nothing happens, and they think that the report is just going to a void somewhere. One of the big things for me now is that even though bins are being missed, even out in the villages, like the furthest reaches of Swale, a lot of them are being picked up the following day, which was not happening before. And so we're getting more bins collected on the day, and that means that there are fewer bins that need catching up the following day. Whereas for most of the last few months, the entire system has kind of been overloaded. Too many bins have been missed on a day. There's not enough resource to catch them up, and things get left, and people get very frustrated, understandably. So from my point of view, the last week and a half has been a huge improvement, and I think we are, touch wood, on the road to recovery finally. But I mean, the review is obviously not about that. It's about those first few months and what went wrong, why it went wrong, and what we can learn from that to make sure that should we find ourselves going with a new contract in 8 years' time, we don't repeat those mistakes.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else?
Yes, I haven't read the review yet, but as a member of renting a property, HMOs normally have to have pay for service for a larger business. Is there something in place where they will not pay and it's not collected? Because it's a build up, you get round, and a lot of places are like this, and they never seem to be looked at. They always seem to be left. So is that down to the company or the council or?
If the council is responsible for collecting your bin,
Yeah,
then that should continue.
even though that's private, it's paid for, say, sick or something, but yeah.
Lisa, do you
I
know?
might, kind of. So if that is being treated as a commercial waste contract,
Yeah.
which is what they, then that isn't our responsibility. And it's the HMO or the landlord or whoever it is has got the contract with the
Even
waste
though-
provider.
Even though it's under the council, because normally the council charge the landlords, don't they, for the larger bins?
Not necessarily,
They don't.
not if, because we don't have a commercial waste contract side of our business, we
Yeah.
only do residential. So if that is a commercial, I'm sorry, this sounds like I'm talking about
Oh, yeah.
a real nerd, but if it is a commercial contract that the landlord has with, even it might still be with sewers, but it might be their commercial arm.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing, they do a commercial provision as well, so
Yeah,
it might
I
look like
understand.
it's us. But if it's under a separate contract, then that is the responsibility of the landlord, but if the landlord isn't, just stops paying and it's not being collected, then
Yeah.
that might then be a housing issue,
Yeah,
so it would be worth reporting that through.
Sorry, and also, is there a number of bins that a commercial HMO can put out? Is it on the sides of the housing? Or say like green bins or blue bins, say you've got 8 and only 4 get put out. Is that because of the council saying you can only put 4 out, or?
If it's part of the residential contract, then it will be on the
I
site.
see, yeah.
But if it's the commercial one, then if you're paying for your bins, I would suggest that there's no limit on how many you can pay for.
But if it's the council, there's it's depending on the size of the property. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Chair, through you. I think probably one of the biggest issues that I think been years ago already that we've had in our ward is communal bins in it a lot. So, and we've got one in Thomas Road that is continually every couple of weeks, it keeps being missed and keeps getting reported. So what are we going to put in place to make sure that this isn't going to be a regular thing?
Well, I mean, the communal bins are being rerouted currently, and they're coming up with a new solution for those. So where, like, as we were just saying, Councillor Winkless, most of the borough had rerouting or new rounds, or thankfully most people didn't have new rounds, but large parts did a couple of weeks ago, and that's had an effect on the entire thing. The communals is still a little bit of a problem, but they are working on that. They're acknowledged there's still a problem there, and that will hopefully be it will be fixed. It's just a question of when rather than if, but yeah, hopefully soon.
But it still needs reporting, so that it gets.
Oh, yes, so that,
Yes.
you know, it's something that keeps down to our residents, but it's make sure it's reported.
Yeah.
We report it, they don't report it, so it's still getting reported, but it just seems to be a same problem again and again and again. I know that there was an issue with BIFA not giving keys in and codes and everything else, other information. So, we need to make sure that we're breaking down that as well, with that complete miscommunication. But I'm pleased to say that months on now, it's doesn't look like the light is starting to shine in the tunnel.
Yeah.
Answer your question.
Thank you.
So Ken, please.
Right, I have a business, I'm Ken Rolls, a business on 34 on the High Street. We don't have much refuge ourselves, but there are people around, partly residents who live above a couple of the shops there. Disaster over the last 6 weeks, where nobody's really known what days it's being collected. Has that all now been resolved? I did notice that last week there wasn't as much rubbish left for 4 days as one was at one time, and residents just didn't know what was happening. And black sacks were everywhere, and there are the largest we've just discussed, the trades bits, but there was a mixture of people mixing up between everything. It was a total disaster, I would say, for probably 2 months.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a problem. It was a problem that most people, or a very large number of people, had their bin collection day changed in March. And then the confusion came when they were missed on the right day, and then a bin lorry comes down a couple of days later, and then people, particularly if that day happened to be your old bin collection day, people would then be thinking that that was their collection day, and there was a lot of confusion around that. And like you said, when things weren't collected, it would be days before they were collected, and then, you know, that makes the high street look particularly untidy, and that was a big problem. I can't say that that's definitely been resolved. I certainly haven't heard anything around Sittingbourne High Street in the last week and a half.
It did seem a bit better.
So I'm hoping that is now resolved, fingers crossed.
Thank you.
So we have Councillor Simon Clark online. The question.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Good evening, Rich. Just a couple of points, really. Whilst we recognise that the wheelie bin collections are improving slowly, it seems to be to the detriment of the emptying of the street bins. i.e., the static bins outside of shops, etc. I've had lots of reports from areas in my ward where the bins are overflowing constantly. And that leads me on to the second point. When we, as councillors, email into the cleansing department, we used to get an acknowledgement or an email to say, yes, we're going out tomorrow to do that, or it's been done, etc. But now we're not getting those emails coming through to us. So can you comment on either of those, please?
Yeah, the emails, that's an interesting one because I've found that I've been getting a lot more replies in the last week and a half since things have improved, because as I mentioned before, the officers have got that additional bandwidth, and particularly, there's one case that I've been dealing with where they've had to send to us back 3 or 4 times to collect a bin, and that level of response I was just not getting at all before, because the officers were completely overloaded. Are you able to say if you've had the need to email the cleansing email address in the past week and a half?
Yeah, I did. I emailed them on when was it? I think it was it was late Friday, admittedly, or early Saturday. I can't remember which now. But that was the last time that I emailed through with some photographs that one of the shopkeepers in Chaucer Road had actually gone out there with a brush and shovel and a black bag and cleaned up himself because it was it was smelling and it was affecting his business. But I still haven't received any reply to that. And prior to that, it's been the case that when I've emailed through to cleansing, I don't know what the reason is. I've even checked my spam folder to see if they're going in there, and they're not. I've not been getting, and Councillor Cheeseman as well. She's had the same problem when she's emailed in with problems that residents have come to us with. She's not getting any replies.
Yeah.
So, Councillor Top, so do you know whether it has been picked up or not from the feedback that you've got from the people that reported it to you?
I must admit, I haven't been around Chaucer Road recently, but I haven't had any further reports from those people to say that it's still a problem. So I would surmise that they've actually sort of caught back up with it. But it's not just Chaucer Road. Is when I've been in other areas, I've noticed that bins are overflowing in different areas. That obviously I wouldn't get reports from the residents in those areas. But yeah, certainly I haven't had any reports back to say that it hasn't been done. But I say I'm just not getting the emails that I used to get from cleansing to say, oh yeah, that's I'll get a crew out there this afternoon, or it'll be done tomorrow, or whatever. I'm just not getting the responses anymore.
I mean, I think Lisa touched on what I was going to say too, is if this is a relatively simple thing and it's being resolved, sometimes I don't get a reply. It's usually the ones that are a little bit more complex that need looking into or further questions on that I do get replies to. And I think probably going forward, as things improve, they will have more capacity to come back to members and give those kind of responses. But at the moment, it's still a case where there's quite a lot on, and they can't always come back to them. And then going on to the issue around the public bins, sewers have got different staff who collect the public bins than collect the household bins. So the improvement in service on the household collection should not in any way be detrimental to the collection of bins from high streets and the public bins. So that if there are any, again, I would recommend reporting those online. And I use an app called Fix My Street, which works quite well, which sends that report through to Swale. I don't even know how to report it to Swale, which is a bit embarrassing. But yeah, that's a really useful app, and it's a lot quicker and easier than, I shouldn't be advertising third party, but never mind, it's good. And you can report overfilled bins, and even if a bin is 3/4 full, we've got a duty to go out and empty that, so it can be reported at that stage. Is that helpful?
Yeah, thank you, Rich. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Cheers.
That's bad, third party thing, if it works.
So
You
I
can take some pressure off.
see that Ken would like to come back, so.
Thank you, Chair. Is there plans to put a document out to residents with dates of when their bins are now being collected? Because there has been some confusion in the local press, it was saying the dates are changing last week.
Yeah, so the dates that changed last week, there were about, back in March, there were around 40,000 homes out of 65, 70,000 across Swale that had a change of collection day. And then last week's changes were only 9,000 or 8 or 9,000. So if people didn't get a letter, the day will be whatever the letter in March told them it was. And it was the same, yeah. But what might happen, because some rounds, people won't have necessarily had a change of day, but they might have a change of the lorry that's collecting from them. So where you may have been collected at, say, 8 AM on a Wednesday, you're now collected at 2 PM on a Wednesday. Some of the rounds have been rejigged, so you might get collected at a different time, but you will only have received a letter if your day has changed. But other than that, just assume it's the same as it was in March.
Thank you.
Councillor Gibson, did you have a question?
I don't have a question, but quite irregular. I'd just like to put on public record a real vote of thanks for Rich and the work that he has done and he's driven, our teams as well. It's been an absolute mammoth task. I know he's been working 24/7. I know he's been working on holiday. I know he's been responding to things, and he's just sent 2,000 emails in his inbox. And I think he's doing an absolutely sterling job for us. And quite often that doesn't get said. It gets lost in the tide of everybody moaning about the bins, including me, because the good news is when Rich was taking a lot of the emails, was taking pressure off because I was getting them, which was fantastic news. But it can't have been easy, and to go along and see the speech was all openly and possibly expecting a little more action thrown his way, I guess. Congratulations on it. Thank you.
Is anybody else?
Yeah, I probably should have come in before you did. Sorry about that. No, I totally do endorse what you said, and also that the scale of the issue that was then facing the cleansing staff at the council to try and unpick all of this was huge. So I think they did a fantastic job in trying to get to where we needed to be so that people have the service that they should rightly expect to get. I think I've got lots of stuff that I want to say, but I'm going to send it in to the evening as councillors have been invited to, and I hope all of my Sittingbourne colleagues will do so, because the Fridays were some of the worst affected with the disruption. So that was Kemsley, Hilton, parts of my Wade, other parts of Sittingbourne. So we should all be putting something in around this, because I'm sure we've all got lots that our colleagues would want to know about and consider as part of this screening process, which I welcome as well. But all I would really want to say is that I really do hope there's something happening specifically looking at why Fridays were still suffering from some poor collection rates, whilst we were seeing improved collection rates for the other days of the week, over the summer in particular. I've got my own suggestions why they might be, which I'm not going to share here, which I will send in, because I think it's lots of different issues rather than just one or two. But I also do want to say that I have, where there's still been hotspot areas in Kemsley, I have had a really good experience with the cleansing staff, really putting the extra mile in and going out over the last month or so, visiting those properties, undertaking supervised collections, making sure that those issues where they're still repeatedly happening in those small number of areas that they're really getting underneath that now, and then are updating me to say what action's been taken, what they're doing to get that resolved, so that we're able to make sure that residents who are raising those issues are getting some sort of, you know, quality response from us to say what's happening. And so, yeah, touch wood, that is really starting to have an impact in touch with those. Yeah, I don't think you can hear me, so it's, but yeah. So yeah, that's all I really wanted to share, but I'll obviously make sure that my other concerns or observations will be shared with the scrutiny panel.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So you will find the matters arising update reports in your agenda packs. Does anybody have any questions concerning either of these?
Yeah, it's Kevin Kelly, chairman of the Sittingbourne Tennis Club. Item 4, I had requested to speak. They seem that this covers off what I want to speak about really. The toilet facility, recreation ground where we play all our tennis. Of course, for those who don't know, they've all been resurfaced with LTA funding, which is fantastic. It's a great facility as well. But we still remain without toilets and washing or storage or anything else. So I just wonder, I'm here to try and gain support, get something, but I've been campaigning for this for about 4 years now. There are issues, change rooms and toilets there that I feel gradually getting closer to using, but at the moment there's nothing. And it's holding back our youth coaching and the schools and our own league tennis and everything else going on. So I'm just looking for, any support and just to push it over the line so we can get something, anything in the next few months.
The council's refurbishment of the tennis court at Milton Recreation Ground was completed in May 2024 at a cost of £51,300 using an LTA grant, plus a further £32,400 of council funding to refurnish the floodlighting controls and LEDs. The changing facilities at Milton Recreation Ground posed for use are in relatively poor condition, used by some of the football teams, and are within a complicated existing third-party lease for the buildings. However, as previously communicated to the tennis club, the tenant has already agreed to usage during their normal opening hours. We are also in the process of receiving quotations for works to facilitate external access and make some improvements within the building, while accepting the limited budget will not permit complete refurbishment at this time. Thank you, Graham Tuck, Green Spaces Manager.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. The problem we've got at the moment is we've got people who could refurbish, but we're not being given access and to go in there and do anything. Or we've got no key to it, so we can only go in there when the gym is open and someone opens it up. We've let the football club use it, but we want to do it ourselves, but we haven't got permission or a contract to be able to do that at the moment. But I think it's moving. I think there is some movement, but it's a very slow process.
I have my chair hat on this evening, but I don't know if my other ward councillor.
Yeah, I was just going to, actually you asked. Sorry,
I've got,
I'm actually about this out.
Chair, that's me.
Actually, you answered a lot actually in that report there, which I was basically touched on what I was going to bring up. But I will just add, I mean, we are quite tight for cash at the moment.
Yep.
For various reasons, which I won't go into some of this meeting. But there's no harm in us pursuing it, in the, hopefully the short term, I won't say long term, to see if we can possibly get further funding.
What I say, Tony, is we're not looking for funding. Obviously, if it's available, we have, yeah. We're looking for permission to go in there and refurbish it, you know, and call it our own. I mean, that issue's part of good, but the funding is,
Yeah,
is mentioned, it's been mentioned for the last 3-4 years, but there's been nothing back from coming forward. So thank you. Thank you for your support as well. I know you've been noting my emails and
well,
support.
thanks.
So thank you.
For the start.
If we've got an agreement already in place with somebody else, and that is why we can't let you go in. So, there's nothing to stop you approaching them. That's not my advice, that's just an observation, because we have the contract, or we have a lease agreement with a third party, so I don't know the details of how that's been potentially looked to unwind, but if, you know, they are not willing to change that position, if they have got a lease agreement, then you could look to work with them.
I have explored that, but it's usually the council that are saying, no, you need permission. They've got to go to the gym first to give her permission to be able to deal with us and then sublease it to us. That's my understanding. That's my understanding at the moment. So I'm still waiting for that green light or give Susan at the gym that green light to actually move that forward. But if that is the case, I'd love confirmation of that. That would be good.
Yeah, so not just as a councillor, but someone that does work in local government as well, that is a bit of a local government answer, unfortunately, which is, well, there's an existing contract and, you know, we as a local authority asked and invited them to join a meeting with everybody that wants to explore this. That's my question, not can they do the works? Because obviously, if there's an existing contract, obviously you can't just let people in to do works, but have we asked them, you know, whether they would be willing to just explore the meeting? So the council willing to facilitate the meeting with people that currently have the contract and the tenants club that wish to use it, just to explore, because it's great that we're getting quotes and all this sort of stuff, but the quotes could shift slightly if some of the other remedial works can be undertaken, maybe not even just by you, but with the existing users as well. It's just, have we done just a scope of meeting around this? That is my question.
I don't know.
No, no, exactly. No, but it is.
That's the local government officer.
Yeah, no, and I totally appreciate why you're trying to offer that explanation for why we're in that position, but I just wondered whether we've just asked that specific question. Because if the actual answer is I'm not really willing to explore it, then that's the answer, isn't it? That, you know, we've got to wait until the contract's up. But if they've not been had an approach about whether they'd all like to come round and explore that, and therefore whether the funding quotations that we're getting are even possibly the right ones, because it may push them along slightly. That's just my question.
That's a good point. I mean, there hasn't been a scoping meeting as far as I know.
Yeah.
And it could be. However, the lady who runs the gym and has got the contract of the whole building, is more than happy for us to take on that part of the building. In fact, she wants us to take it on. But there's some sort of red tape that they can't split the lease.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just wonder whether I just wonder whether it's more to it than, because I can't imagine our officers not really wanting to look at that, because it basically saves us money. But it feels like sometimes we get these little blocks in the system where it's like maybe it's not quite the right questions we're asking sometimes, even of the group that we've got the contract with, because these things happen where we're sort of not necessarily asking the things that we're really asking. We're trying to get to the bottom. I think what seems to have done surprise get to the bottom of where we're at, but not maybe where people might want to go to. So, yeah.
Anyone have anything to say about the Swale local heritage?
I'll just come back and the conversation we had today, this evening, I'm going to follow up on that, because obviously tomorrow. And so we can try and get something resolved rather than just doing it again. So we'll take that. Thank you.
Periwinkle Mill? Heritage issues, number 2? We're walking backwards. Yes, councillor Winkle.
Yes, going to come in on the heritage issues. Right, first of all, I've got something marked off here. Basically, it was agreed that the policy review that brought this up before, the heritage line would be moved slightly back towards the High Street, so avoid 2 more up close. It says that long proceed with this would actually come in and be in the autumn. So question is, we're entering autumn now, so I can tell the residents concerned, say, well, whatever. Has this actually been officially moved yet, documented?
I can ask the officer and feed that back to you.
Because the residents want to know, and thanks for that, Jack. And the other question is, I've been asked, is the little High Street Library building, what's the library building, where the toilets are at the moment, included, there is a listed building, I can't remember what the other one exactly.
Again,
It's within the heritage area of Milton High Street. So if we could get that clarified,
Okay.
because we might have another issue with that at a later date, but I won't discuss that tonight. If you could, Joe.
Okay.
Thank you.
Number 1, the built facility strategy. So we'll move on then to Swale local bus focus group. Because we jumped. So are there any members of the public who would like to ask a question?
Well,
Yes,
yeah, I'm surprised it's so badly attended tonight. I'm wondering what we're doing to notify people of this meeting, because there's several I've spoken to in the last 10 days didn't know anything about it. And I just wondered, is it something that, is there a notice on the outside street offices that this meeting was here?
There's not a physical sign that it's on. There's been repeated social media posts about it. We also encourage the councillors to let residents know as well, word of mouth.
There's a few people I would have expected to be here that, you know, like Jackie, who always talks about buses and things like that.
Oh, he sent apologies, so he was aware. The other thing that I do specifically with this one, is it's not a parished area, is that I have a contact list and I email all the contacts within there, including people like Jackie, so that they're aware of the meeting. So it's quite a long list of people on that distribution list. So lots of different organisations are aware.
One thing I will suggest is the mayor set up the hub in 34 in the High Street. It was her suggestion. And I think if we try and promote it from there as well, and perhaps get a message out to Sittingbourne residents that the hub is there for, you know, and that is I mean, a lot of people come to me because I was a councillor and I come and moan about East Street and various things. But I just like to help.
Yeah,
Yeah.
do you get, are you on my list, Marcus? Do you get emails from me? I can't remember whether you're on.
Not anymore, not now.
I don't,
Not now, I'm
okay.
not councillor.
Um,
Shall I email you?
if you email, if you
With
don't
my
mind email,
details.
yes, then I'll add you to the list
It's,
and then perhaps we
amazing.
could,
The Swell Media Arts Centre has its own website,
okay,
So,
that'd be great, thank you.
and, I'll liaise with you.
Thank you,
what
that'd be
we're doing.
great, thanks.
Please, Justin.
I'm in the Milton Readers Society, Tony supports us, and we had the conservation report, but we're noticing even still since then, buildings are increasingly in the high street putting up plastic shop signs and lights behind them. And also, plastic doors, and we have reported this beginning of the year. And more shops are doing it since it's been reported. But we all understood on our buildings, you could only have painted, hand painted or printed signs in keeping with the area. So as it's not been acted on, the dentist has now put plastic signs.
Could I ask who you reported it to?
Well, Tony's kindly done it through our committee
Conservation.
and through the conservation.
If I can come back on points that you've made there, with the windows that have been changed in the high street, this has been reported to planning enforcement. One concern, so I'm reporting back to your list, so that has been a report. Waiting on planning enforcement at the moment. Basically, come back a decision whether they have broken the rules on that one. What's the other one?
Signs.
Oh, yes, the other one is the barber shop. Very good. How does the Milton High Street Society are concerned about that's broken the planning rules within the area, which is got the high street.
Has that one been reported as well?
That has, I'll have to check that out, that's been reported or not. But the windows, check, I've been dealing with that, waiting on enforcement to come and clarify that.
Okay. Is that something you can follow up? Will you be able to follow that one up?
Yeah, I have been following it up, I'm waiting for compliance to come back.
Thank you.
We've got about three issues that have been reported.
Beginning of the year, because I was looking at the email, so now the dentist put plastic signs up, and the chemist has put plastic signs.
Did you have anything further to add, councillor Winkler?
Sorry?
Did you have anything further to add?
Thank you.
No.
Any other questions from anybody? Move on to the Swell Local Bus Focus Group. And would Karen Watson like to give us some quick updates?
So, we had a meeting, the last week of the local bus forum. We had Chalkwell, we had KCC, and we had Stagecoach attend. Majority of the issues were around, the road works that we have all through, Swell, especially in Sittingbourne. The effect that that has had on local buses, in particular the buses that are going, the school buses that are going onto the island. There's a great deal of comment about utility companies digging up the roads, and the road works that we've got going on at Roadfest as well. So ACC then look into what we were going to do around that. The bus company have come back to us and said that they're going to have QR codes on bus stops, so you can look up live bus times or to scanning that with our phones. This is working again. How do you quick get into that? Accessibility on the buses as well. And looking at trying to make it a bit more friendly for people with mobility issues getting on and off the buses. Obviously, we've got concerns about the amount of buses we've got, services during the weekends and bank holidays. And the bus company said, which is what KCC said earlier, it is making quite a big getting started. And with the government looking at putting bus services back into the hands of local government, we shall wait and see as to whether that works in scale. The £2 bus cap and price cap, that will be going soon, unless we get feedback back from the government, more than that's going to be extended. That has been a great way of getting more people onto our buses, which is a greener way to travel. If that bus, the price cap is taken, the bus fares will go up considerably. Bus companies will be giving that back fairly soon, I would have thought. The good thing that's happened is the flyover. The flyover, which we've all had to put up with the pain of the roadworks and congestion, has meant that now it's been completed, they don't have to amend the A3, the X3 timetable because buses are turning up early. Because now there's no congestion and they're flying over the flyover, it's making things a lot easier. So they're going to be looking, they're going to be looking at the timetables for that. So they're sort of indication of how it's going. So that was a bit of good news. As I said, the bad news is if they do realise that there's lots of issues around congestion and everything else, and fares. We are looking at having another meeting in the new year. Obviously, we would have had a meeting before then, but there's some general election due that went on in July and some meetings. But yeah, I think we had I know that Councillor Wickley said get into the meeting, and Councillor Gould wasn't able to be in the meeting, whereas Councillor Woodcock. So, all I would say is if people have got any comments that you want us to take, you want me to take, or any other councillors to take to the bus forum, please let us know through you, Chair. Let the area committee know, and the area committee can tell us, and we can take it to the bus companies. Although it's not a bus issue, I think we were looking at trying to get Network Rail down to Roach out as well. That links up with the buses. But yeah, that was it. Yeah, but that enough, a couple of words, Janet.
That's brilliant. That's far more than. Thank you.
Leading on from that, does anybody have any issues that they would like to be noted when the group reconvenes?
Just saying the bus issue, as Karen said, that Councillor Watson said I had technical problems, so I couldn't get connected up to the meeting that day.
I thought we stuck on the bus.
I wasn't stuck on the bus, but one of the questions I wanted to ask at that meeting, that I've read it up now.
Yeah.
As Jackie Davis asked me to bring it up, is the fact that at the moment we have no buses on the summer, which is quite a big issue for retired residents. People can't drive. But anyway, I should hopefully be connected that to the next bus. And I'm not possibly bring it up then, but I'll mention that to them.
If I can, Chair, come back to you on that. We did bring up the frequency of buses, the lack of buses at weekends, the fact that at weekends, Swale sends into a lowest time, especially on Sundays for buses. Back, you can't go out. If you haven't got a car, you can't go out. And the response that came back to us was it's not profitable. So until we can make it profitable, they're not going to like it. I know back in the good old bad old days, we had the post office used to have a van that used to go, minibus, not a van, trying to in the back, a minibus that used to go around the villages. I know that Faversham's got the hopper. They've now got a minibus called the hopper that goes around. It's all run by volunteers. Perhaps that might be something that we might need to look at in the future. But we need to look at something because where I live up in at the back of the cricket ground in Bobbin. Nothing comes up to us after a certain hour during the weekdays, but only weekends and Sundays. So I know that there is quite a big issue, especially on, Rectory Road estate all around there, and not having buses. So we need this, something we do need to think of. I'll keep that.
Thank you. So do we have any questions for the Swale Traffic Forum to take forward? Any issues? And the group reconvenes? So we move on to local issues. Do members have any issues that they would like to raise on behalf of local residents, communities?
I've got a question as a general public. I'm only talking about myself and other people as well. We have nowhere to go in the council to complain. When you're passed from one office to the other and you go to complain and they can't help you. For example, my landlord's office, I'm under a guy called Salon Seidenfield, and he took me to court and the judge ruled, even though I've got evidence that I should be evicted. I went from one office to the next and next, and as far as I went, I still didn't get any help. So I'm being evicted illegally, even though I've got evidence. And not just me, but I'm talking for me, but a lot of general public don't trust the council who to go to once they come to a dead end. So yeah, that's my question. Is there someone you can go to that's trust them, once you've been passed from pillar to post? I mean, I'm talking about myself, but there is other people who have issues as well, exactly the same, so.
So it might be helpful, but
Yes, I've been to them, but they're part of the problem because they wouldn't give me the right advice in the first place. And when I went to court, they were meant to be there and they weren't. And it was a solicitor from the same office as them. So I'm going to be complaining about them higher up, but it's the whole office. So I said to them about complaining about the offices, and I still didn't get anywhere. I went up some complaints and I went back down to the people, San Lloyd, for example, who helped them evict me and lied about the work being done in the property. I can take photos, I've got evidence of the letters went to the wrong address for the judge. He, the minute will say that he no need to look at my evidence, even though I've got it still. So I went to the council office after office. I went up to, not Charlotte, I can't remember the name, I've got them written down. And she said, I can't help you any further. And I don't know where to go as a person of the public to trust them. And that's including citizen advice, because they were making mistakes as well. So I'm making issues for me, but I know a lot of other people have issues with the council higher up, and they haven't got the sort of confidence who to speak to once they've been passed through different offices. So that's my question anyway, you know, who do I go to who I can trust higher up? Who's going to sit down and say to me, for example, I've been tried to, the council said, oh, you might as well get out in 2 weeks. And another one said, oh, we find the landlord, but haven't done anything about my complaint about the person helping them. So it's a big thing in Sittingbourne that a lot of people don't know where to complain to about these things. So, you know, they want the confidence of someone to be able to talk to, that they can say, oh yeah, I want to talk to you about all these issues, and I've got nowhere to go, especially when citizen advice wrongly advised me in the first place and I didn't get the help solicitor suddenly come in from their office and said, oh, please, went back to citizen advice and they said, oh, should have filled this form in. And I'm like, yeah, but you didn't give me it. So I'm dealing with a citizen advice who wrongly helped me, and then they give me advice. I go further up, and then suddenly it stops out of complaints. And that's as far as I can go without confidence to talk to them. So, you know, that's my answer to your question. Is there someone I can go to higher up that will listen to me and take, you know, say, oh yeah, blah, 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 and actually give me an answer why someone hasn't been disciplined, why I'm being thrown out quickly as possible, you know, like, you know, get out in 2 weeks rather than, you know, like, oh, we won't help you with your 10 housing form, you do it yourself type thing. That ain't exact words, but, you know, this is, so, and there's other people in Sittingbourne who have the same problems of who to go to complain to with confidence.
So we have a pretty robust complaints procedure, but it does sound like that you have been through that. And so if it's run its course, and I don't want to sound harsh, and if the response that has been, we can't help you any further, then depending on what level that has reached.
Yeah. The complaints, yeah.
Yeah, so, but then the last stage of that is that you are able to take us to the ombudsman, which would have been the letter, the final stage of the complaint that you've received.
I know, I didn't get one. They said they won't send you one.
No, we don't do that, you do. So
Oh, I see, yeah.
So if you're not happy with the final stage of the complaints process, you are able to then refer us to the ombudsman.
Yeah.
So that should have been part of your complaints procedure. I mean, obviously without all the details, I can't comment. So this is, I'm just talking about the general process. And so if you've received something said that we can't help you any further, then that would suggest that your only route would be the ombudsman, which that letter should have said.
Yeah.
So I think if you're still not happy with that, I'll refer back to that
I
last
rang up rather than I kept ringing because I was a citizen advice and they gave me the people to talk to. So I rang every department and then I went to the next day and I actually spoke on the complaints. So
It's the local government ombudsman.
oh, it is, yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
so that's what I go to, yeah.
Independent
Yeah.
body.
Oh, that'd be good for me and then I can pass that round as well. So, yeah, thank you.
So if you, so that should all be documented on our complaints procedures and where to follow it. So that the details of how to contact them will be on our website. My computer's outdated, so I can't look it up for you now, but that process should all be documented and the route of what you can do next is on there as well.
Is there generally an amount of time for these things? Because I'm running out of time, or is it sort of if and when the next person?
Yeah, it kind of depends on each case individually. So there will be, you know, what's involved in researching the complaints. So
okay, now I know what to do next, so and I can pass that on to others. So yeah.
Councillor Watson?
Yeah, thank you, through you, Chair. I just wanted to say how pleased I was about the news that we're getting the CCTV cameras in Sittingbourne town centre, and I just really wanted the meeting, if I don't know, that perhaps it might be worth that the next area committee seeing if we can get members who constabulary going on and talk to us about has. But it is encouraging that it's due to the work done by the local councillors that we've managed to get these CCTV cameras installed, including the mobile ones.
Councillor Watson?
Actually, I'd just like to add to that, the work that's been doing in Milton Regis, subject to KCC agreeing to the CCTV cameras to be installed on the lamppost. We will be getting CCTV installed in Milton High Street after quite a lot of lobbying been doing. I was told by Stephanie it takes 6 to 8 weeks for KCC to approve, but the funding has been allocated. So hopefully we'll get that installed by the end of the year, KCC don't, get it in play. Let's put it that way.
Reason I came here was because my partner's turn up is about charities. Is there rules on competing with other charities on certain things they do for funding? So like say you have similar things to another charity and I might want to do it better and I want funding for that because it'll be local youth and unemployed sort of thing. Is there rules on me applying for money for, funding for that? Or is there a thing in it saying there's other people doing it, so you might not get it? Or
So it depends what the source of funding is. If it's a grant that's open to any application, then anyone can apply for that, and then it will be assessed on the criteria of who meets that best and what's being delivered and required agreement will be put in
and you
place.
need a resume maybe of everything that's on it and how each section's going to work.
Yes, so it will depend on what the grant requirements are, and then so any application needs to meet those criteria and how it can be delivered. And if it's a contract, then the procurement with charities, we do have those as well.
But it's a charity anyway, but
So if that would just be advertising, if it was to deliver a specific service that a charity would deliver, then that is an open process as well. That would be an open competition.
So you bring handing your resume and then you discuss it and say blah 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 blah, and then
Yes, so it will be, the opportunities will be advertised.
Yeah.
If it's for a contract, so it'd be like a procurement exercise, and then you need to bid against it. It would be against everyone else, but that's how it works. It's an open competition.
I've been working for other charities like the council, but I've got better ways of doing things, so we quite encourage me. So I'll be with another charity, for example. So I'll be taking them things that failed with them with me. So
Each opportunity would be different. So it would need to be who meets the criteria best.
Yeah. At least I know that now, so I can
Thank you. So are there matters to be taken forward?
I was just going to say on that as well, is obviously it's generally better where charities can work together to try to see that that's the best way to do things, so that there's not lots of people doing the same things, because also for a lot of people that need to access that help, it's usually better that there's a very clear organisation, or at least a group of organisations coming together to make sure that they're able to access the help in the easiest way possible. Just wanted to add that contribution to that. But the other thing I also wanted to just share in the meeting is we've had a few meetings over the last couple of months about Sittingbourne Town Centre and the issues that we've been experiencing in the High Street, where different council teams have come along to those meetings, and the police have been there as well, so that we can start to develop some sort of action plan that delivers the sort of safety, security and environmental sort of improvements that people want to see around the High Street. I know that it was flagged at the last meeting we had, because we had the update on the Safer Streets Fund at that. So I just wanted to echo requests from Councillor Watson around making sure to see if we could get police representative again at another meeting soon, because the meeting that we had last December with them, I thought was quite productive. People had lots of questions that they wanted to put to them, so just wanted to support
Could
that.
I add to that? A lot of charities like ours, where we're developing, like for example, the homeless, unwanted kids, we will be dealing with people like that as part of our charity. So we'll be dealing with it as in, like, I'm from the street, so I can talk to them, and I've had it with kids. So part of our charity will be teaching lessons and teaching things for people like that. So it'd be nice to liaise on with the police, because then you haven't got that breakdown of you sort of thing. So I just wanted to say that,
And sort of just another thing on what Ashley said, and it shows the power that meetings like this can have, because all of those meetings actually started from suggestions that came forward from this area committee. So, you know, we're kind of seeing it through and it's working. So, you don't have to put thousands of pounds of things, you can just get on and do things.
Through you, Chair, so if everybody's in agreement, we can invite the police to the next meeting. Okay.
I think something we know. I've been to Chief Inspector Barry, maybe.
Next meeting takes place Thursday, the 12th of December, in the committee room at Swell House, 7 o'clock, 7 p.m. I see Linda and Mike Dendor have been watching online. Just want to say fantastic, great news about Milton Creek Country Park Trust and just winning a silver award at the Wilder Kent Awards. Great work. Thank you very much for joining me this evening on this lovely rainy weather. Oh, closing the meeting at 8:40 p.m. Thank you.
Yeah.